Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Doug.Show. It's Doug Cunnington here, and in this episode, I'm going to answer a couple questions. One is a voicemail from Heather. Much appreciated for sending in a concise and pretty good question. It's kind of a tough one here, so I'll give my opinions, and then Ivan wrote in with an email question about the keyword golden ratio. It's a fairly basic question, but I have seen people, especially on YouTube, where, they're asking questions which to me seem, basic or obvious, but that is an issue that people have when they're either experts or they know a lot about a subject. And I realize I have a blind spot on that. The thing is, we sort of internalize things that we're really good at. Everyone has these sort of things where, you're just so deep into it that you just think in a certain way and you're an expert. So it's kind of hard to go back to the beginning. So we're going to cover Ivan's question as well. Now, before I get into the questions, I'm going to talk about a book that I'm reading. So I really enjoy Scott Adams books, and you may remember Scott Adams. You may know him from his Dilbert cartoon. So I was a big fan of Dilbert even before I joined the corporate world. And it's kind of funny. I remember when I bought my, one of my first computers for college. Actually, it was the first computer that I got for college when I was, spending a shitload of money to buy stuff to go to Georgia Tech there. I bought a computer, and I think my class was the first class where they required all the incoming freshmen to have computers. So yeah, I'm about 40. Some of the younger folks out there are like, man, they didn't even require people to have computers before that. That's true. Yeah. So there was a time where that was pretty rare. And yeah, before my class, they did not have to have a computer. You could operate without a computer. It was crazy. So anyway, I remember I got a computer, and the mouse pad that I got was a Dilbert cartoon. And if you remember, I may have to look this up. You could look it up on your own, but it was the boss, the pointy-headed boss, had an Etch-a-Sketch, and he was shaking the Etch-a-Sketch. I don't remember the punchline exactly. Now that I'm saying this out loud, I realize it's really hard to explain the humor of a cartoon through just your words, especially when you don't have the cartoon in front of you. So I'll put a link in the show notes so everyone can enjoy that. But I liked Dilbert way back in the day, even before I worked in an office or had to sit in a cubicle or anything like that. So the reason why I brought it up is Scott Adams has a new book out, and I rarely pre-order. I pre-ordered a couple things this year, and one of them was the Black Crowes memoirs, which I mentioned in a previous episode. But I also pre-ordered this new book called Loserthink: How Untrained Brains Are Ruining America. So Scott Adams, again, I appreciate his writing style. It's simple. It is straightforward and easy to understand, and it has, as you can imagine, some humor baked into it. And it's my style of dry humor, sort of inside humor, that sort of stuff. So I'll read a short little description, not the whole thing here, but I'll let you know what this book is about. So from the creator of Dilbert, this is the about this book section. From the creator of Dilbert and author of Win Bigly, A Guide to Spotting and Avoiding Loserthink, Sneaky Mental Habits. This is what Loserthink is. Sneaky mental habits trapping victims in their own bubbles of reality. So another way to put it is he's talking about biases, right? So we're thinking about things in a certain way, but chances are we're looking at it wrong. Further, again, from the About This Book section, if you've been on social media lately or turned on your TV, you may have noticed a lot of dumb ideas floating around. These are in quotes, little examples. We know when history will repeat and when it won't. Point 2, we can tell the difference between evidence and coincidences. And the last one here, the simplest explanation is usually right. And wrong, and dangerous is what the sort of retort is to that. So I'll just read one more little section here. If we're not careful, Loserthink would have us believe that every Trump supporter is a bigoted racist. Addicts should be responsible for fixing the opioid epidemic. Easy for me to say. And that your relationship fell apart simply because you chewed with your mouth open. So I didn't realize that was what was in that paragraph, and I would struggle reading it. But anyway, the point is, I am really enjoying the book. I'm only about 1/3 of the way through. It just came out in the last week or so, at least at the time that I'm recording this. And like I said, it's a pretty easy read, and I've read a few of Scott Adams' books, which they're super interesting because they are practical. It's like part memoir, part advice, a decent amount of humor in there, and humor that I, personally enjoy. I suspect if you're listening to this, you probably enjoy that sort of humor as well. It's not like a huge riot, but I smirk quite a bit when I'm reading these books. Okay. So with all that said, let's answer Ivan's question first. So Ivan, like I mentioned, asked about the keyword golden ratio. And the keyword golden ratio is a data-driven way to find keywords out there. It's a little manual. You got to do it in a manual way, but all in title, you take the all in title number of results and you divide it by the local monthly search volume. So Ivan asked this: what if the search volume is smaller than the all in title? So, for example, if the all in title results are 450 and the search volume is 30, you would end up with 15. So 450 divided by 30 is 15. And he's thinking, well, that seems weird. Like, we want the ratio to be, under 1 and ideally under 0.25. So Ivan says, can I just flip it over? Can I just flip it over so that we're saying 30 divided by 450? And simply, the answer is no. You calculated 15, and that's you can't just flip a formula over and get the reciprocal. That doesn't mean anything. You just flip the formula over. So like I said, I thought this question it's a formula. You can't just change the formula because you don't like the result that you got, which, I stand behind that. You can't just change formulas because you don't like them. So yeah, you can't flip it, Ivan. You found a keyword that has a lot more competition and results out there. Now, it doesn't mean you shouldn't go after it or you can't go after it or anything like that. By the way, I've never said, hey, you have to only publish keyword golden ratio content. Occasionally people have that impression. They're like, oh, Doug, you'd be upset. I'm doing some keyword golden ratio, but some others, it's just, keywords that I think I should go after, which is actually exactly what you should be doing. So the keyword golden ratio is a tool to use, to experiment with, check it out. If you've consistently had trouble getting traffic on your site, or you need like an injection of traffic and you're trying to, gain some momentum and publish content that you are confident is going to rank, check out the keyword golden ratio. But it's not it's not a lifestyle or anything like that. I'm not like dogmatic about it or anything. If you want to check it out, you can. A lot of people find success with it. Other people say it's horseshit, right? And that's fine. That's okay if people don't like it. If people are talking about it one way or another, that's good for me. So even if people are saying that it's not going to work, they are spending time talking about me. And from where I sit, that means I win. So, all right, Ivan, you can't change the formula. You just got to stick with it. You can't divide or take the reciprocal or, anything like that. So let's get to Heather's question here. And let me pull that up. It'll take just a second.
Hi, Doug. This is Heather from the United States, and I really enjoy your podcast and your YouTube channel. I'll try to keep this brief. I started a niche site in 2014, and I only put like a few articles on, and one was an FAQ page. And then I just left that site for several years, and then I started writing a few more articles in 2018. And then, so the FAQ page, is my problem, because I'm ranking for pretty much all the keywords in my niche with that page, but they're all like on the bottom of page 1 or like farther down in Google. And so I tried to go back and increase my rankings by like adding more content to each question. So my original answers were like a few sentences, and I added like a few paragraphs. And that didn't seem to bring them up in the rankings. So now I'm like, I'm thinking I need to create separate articles, but I'm afraid of keyword cannibalization. So I don't know how I should approach that. Should I delete all those questions off that page? Or, because that page has like a lot of age now and some backlinks. So I don't know if I should just delete the questions and the keywords off that page, or if I should like leave short sentences with like a very short answer to the FAQs, and then like a link to the new articles that I create. I just really am like so confused how I should approach this. So I would love to hear your opinion. Thank you. Have a good day.
All right. Great question there, Heather. You're making me think about it here. And the cool part is, at least for me, is there's no like set strategy on like exactly what to do here. You're bringing up a lot of great points, and I'll just define a couple for people that maybe are unfamiliar. So you mentioned keyword cannibalization, and that's basically where like you have multiple pieces of content on your site that potentially are ranking for a keyword. And oftentimes what will happen is, let's say you have 2 pieces of content and they kind of cover the same topic. They will both rank, but they'll both rank further back than one of them individually should rank. So for example, just to be specific, you may have 2 posts that are ranking in position 8, and then the other one, say 14 or something like that. And if you would just delete one of those and then redirect, like 301 redirect the one that you deleted to the one that is now the sole piece of content that's covering that content, it will probably move up. Sometimes it'll move up to like, the top of page 1, that sort of thing. Or you may be ranking 17 and 18 for those 2 pieces of content. And if you would just get rid of one, Google would see, this one is the one that should rank, and it'll, move up quite a bit, potentially, top of page 1. So in this case, just to run it down again, Heather has a site. It's been around for a few years. There's a few articles. There's an FAQ page that she's ranking for, basically in the bottom half of page 1. So I've actually had this happen, and what I would recommend is kind of what you were explaining. So most likely I would create like a page. I would potentially move it over from a post to a page if it's not already that way. And I would have a sort of a navigational point on the page, probably the same URL that you have there, so that you could take advantage of the links and the age and all that stuff. And then I would, create the silo. So you have that page, and then you would answer those questions on child pages, right? So it's a page underneath the hierarchy of that. We'll just call it the FAQ page. On the FAQ page, where they're all sort of interlinked, you potentially want to put a little bit more content on that FAQ like main page to sort of, I guess, explain the main overview there and just set it up that way. The thing is, you can, before I go on, you can look at nichesiteproject.com/FAQ and see how I've organized things there. You'll notice that there's a lot of content on that page. Most of them are questions. And then the question, is the anchor text and hyperlink to the page, the child page that answers that question. Sometimes it's a post, but most of the time it's a page. So you end up with, a pretty good hierarchy, and it's pretty clear like what the topic is because it's a child page of the parent. So that said, I would go that route first. And if you are doing that, you probably should be okay for the keyword cannibalization, because you're providing sort of like a table of contents or a directory of questions, the FAQs there, and you're sending people in the right direction. The big thing is you're going to have to take some big action, not a minor tweak. You're going to have to do something big and then see what kind of data you get in the Search Console and in analytics. So that's data only you have. And again, if you're taking some big action, you'll probably see either things are going to be really good or things are going to be bad. It sounds like, I mean, this is what happened for Niche Site Project in a couple situations where I tried to have like really long form content. It would rank for a lot of keywords, but it didn't rank that well. However, when I separated it out, then each of the pieces of content would help solve the problem for a specific type of visitor, which is good, right? It was serving that visitor, solving their problem versus like more of a watered down general solution. So I think you're on the right track. You're watching out for cannibalization, but the big thing here is you're going to have to like take some drastic measure and then see what happens. Basically, you're making it easier to navigate that content. So that's going to be a good thing from a user experience standpoint, which is exactly what I observed for Niche Site Project. So I've tried to take a lot of my content from Niche Site Project out of like posts and turn them into pages. By the way, there's a plugin out there that very easily converts a page to a post or vice versa, or other content types. It's a plugin that I use fairly often when I'm doing these activities. And I know I always complain about plugins, but this one's actually pretty convenient, and I activate it and deactivate it based on whether I'm using it or not. So it's not just sitting there running all the time. I don't think it would impact the actual like speed of the site, but when I'm using WordPress as an admin, it does slow down like those sort of plugins that are on the back end. It does slow down the admin activities, which is my time. So that's why I deactivate it when I'm not using it. So big summary here. You're going to have to do some stuff. I think reorganizing the content, publishing them on separate pages so that they stand alone is a good thing. Preserve that main FAQ page that's already ranking and it has links going to it. That's good. That's fine. Treat that as sort of a navigational point. Probably put a little, copy on there to introduce people on what they're seeing there, and then they can go find more answers to their specific questions if they follow those links. And by putting a little content there, I mean, obviously it helps the user experience so people know what's going on, but I wouldn't say that I don't think you need to have 800 words or 1800 words or anything like that. You could probably put, 200, 300 words, let people know why you set up that page, and then they can get more information further. You're going to have people clicking through on your site, potentially looking at some of the other posts that are related to it, which those are all good things from a Google standpoint for your rankings and just user interaction on your site. So I think that's the route to go. Heather, please let me know the results that you get from it, because again, I don't do this super often, but usually, like I said, taking a big drastic measure, big action versus like a little tweak, you're going to get some results and you'll be able to adjust from there. It's really hard to tell if something worked or not if you're just changing a tiny little thing. So let me know how it goes. In an upcoming episode, I'm going to talk about some of my back end of the business here. So Nathan sent this question in, and he mentioned, "Hey Doug, since you're a PMP, probably you really emphasize processes and procedures, and I'm interested in the back end of the business. How do you use filing systems?" I guess maybe I'm cherry picking that specifically, but like, how do I keep track of shit? I think that's what Nathan is asking. How do I keep track of the books, income, expenses? How do I keep it up to date? Dealing with different affiliate partners out there and just the different streams of income that are coming in, which I should probably list them all out at some point. I imagine people would find it interesting, but yeah, there's like my courses that I have. There are multiple affiliate sites. I have Niche Site Project, and I have affiliates for various products, like, for example, the Hoth or services like the Hoth, tool like Link Whisper. I'm an affiliate for different hosting companies. I really like SiteGround right now. And yeah, there's a lot of like moving pieces, and there are obviously multiple areas of expenses and income and like just keeping track of it. So if you have questions on specifics or anything, please shoot me an email, feedback@Doug.Show. And by the way, if you want to leave a voicemail like Heather did, I really appreciate it. I think it adds some flavor to the show, takes a little of the heavy lifting away from me. And I mean, you get a shout out, which is pretty cool. There's a voicemail number in the show notes. And typically when it's a Google Voice number, so I don't answer or pick up. It's not like my primary phone. However, whenever people send me a message, I shoot them a text back, so I can send text that way. And I'm just like, hey, I mean, it's not an open door policy to like send me a bunch of text or whatever, but I do appreciate it's a little extra interaction. And I like the voicemail. It's pretty cool. So if you want to ask questions about the back end of the business or some totally different topics, that is awesome. You could also shoot an email, feedback@Doug.Show. So thanks a lot, everyone. We'll catch you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to The Doug Show. I really do appreciate it. I mean, I'm just sitting here on my computer recording stuff, and you're listening to it, and I think that's awesome. If you enjoy the show and you know someone who maybe would be interested in it, please let them know. I think it would be fantastic if you help spread the word. If you are not signed up for the Niche Site Project email list, well, you're in luck. All you have to do is go to nichesiteproject.com, click the green button, enter your name and email address, and I'll send you a bunch of cool stuff about affiliate marketing, productivity, including all my templates. If you happen to not be subscribed to this podcast, please do subscribe, and don't forget, I welcome your questions. So you could send your emails to feedback@Doug.Show. I got that really cool domain, Doug.Show, that's it. So feedback@Doug.Show, or I'm going to leave my voicemail number in the show notes. So all you have to do is give me a buzz, leave a voicemail, and then I'll potentially put you on the air. So looking forward to it, and we'll catch you next time.